Today, we are diving into a truly dark chapter from the works of the historian Flavius Josephus. It's a story about a royal family that gets absolutely consumed by suspicion, a father's love that twists into pure terror, and a brother's ambition that becomes what Josephus himself calls a mystery of wickedness. We're going to explore the tragic downfall of King Herod's sons. So that's the big question, right? How does this happen? We're going to trace the exact methodical steps that took a powerful king from being a loving father to a paranoid wreck who saw assassins in his own children's eyes. Let's dig into this tragic descent. Okay, so our story kicks off in a royal court that is anything but peaceful. On the surface, there's this fragile truce between King Herod's sons, but just underneath, the seeds of jealousy and resentment are already starting to sprout. To really get this tragedy, you've got to know the players. At the center of it all is King Herod himself. His mind is basically the battlefield where this whole thing plays out. Then you have his eldest son, Antipater, the official heir. But he secretly despises his younger half-brothers, Alexander and Aristobulus. See, they're the sons of Herod's beloved but executed Queen Mariamne, and they carry themselves with this noble, maybe even arrogant attitude. And circling them all, Herod's own brother and sister, Pharoahs and Salome, who become key allies in the plot against their own nephews. You know, the conflict is really baked right into their personalities. Alexander and Aristobulus are proud, noble, and, well, they're dangerously frank. They say whatever's on their mind. Antipater, on the other hand, is a master of deception. Josephus describes him as politic, someone who hides his real feelings and uses a great deal of cunning. This difference in their very nature is what's going to lead to their undoing. So with all the players on the board, one of them begins to actively dismantle the family from the inside. Antipater doesn't just resent his brothers, he launches a systematic campaign of lies and slander to completely destroy them in their father's eyes. And listen, Josephus himself does not hold back. He calls Antipater's life a mystery of wickedness. This isn't just some simple sibling rivalry. We're talking about a deep, calculated evil. A plot so intricate, it's like a dark work of art. And this is how he does it. It's basically a four-step playbook. First, he sends in spies to get his outspoken brother Alexander worked up, to say something rash. Second, he bribes and flatters Alexander's own friends to turn on him. Third, he takes every little thing they say, twists it, adds some lies, and runs straight to Herod. But it's this last step. This is the masterstroke. He publicly defends Alexander to look loyal, while in private he's fanning the flames of the king's rage. It is a masterclass in psychological warfare. Now, a poison like that, it doesn't stay contained. It spreads. And Antipater wasn't working alone for long. Pretty soon, the entire royal court became an echo chamber for his lies. A whole network of whispers and accusations, all pointed right at the two princes. And all of a sudden, Alexander and Aristobulus are completely isolated. Antipater gets his own mother on his side. He turns their uncle Pheroras and their aunt Salome against them. Even Alexander's own wife, Glaphyra, accidentally helps the enemy by bragging about her noble family, which just infuriates Herod's other wives. And the courtiers? Well, they can see which way the wind is blowing, so they start giving the princes the cold shoulder too. The net was closing in. This right here is a perfect example of how it all worked. A stupid, arrogant joke made in private. Alexander muses that when he's king, he might make his other brothers country schoolmasters. His aunt Salome overhears it and runs to Herod. But in her telling, the joke becomes a threat. It becomes proof of treason. It just shows you how easily the truth can be turned into a weapon and a climate of fear. So with this constant flood of accusations from his son, his brother, and his sister, King Herod's mind just begins to fracture. His suspicion hardens into a deep, inescapable terror. And this is the tipping point. This is when whispers turn into what Herod thinks is cold, hard proof. He has 3 of his most trusted eunuchs tortured, and under that agony, they confess that Alexander had corrupted them and was planning to overthrow his father. For Herod, this confession, literally beaten out of them, was all the proof he needed. His paranoia isn't just in his head anymore. It becomes his state policy. The king turns his own kingdom into a surveillance state. Spies are sent out day and night. Nobody is trusted. Everyone is a potential traitor. The fear in his heart is now projected onto his entire realm. And with that, justice just completely collapses. Josephus describes a palace filled with horribly unjust proceedings. All it took was an accusation to get a death sentence. Punishments were handed out instantly, sometimes before the lies were even fully thought out. In all the chaos, the person making the accusation one minute could be the one being accused the next, both of them dragged off to be executed together. And here we see the tragic result of all this terror. It's no longer just a fear of plots, it's become a waking nightmare. Herod starts having hallucinations, vividly picturing his own son Alexander, coming at him with a sword drawn ready to kill him. The slander has become his reality. After being pushed to this psychological breaking point, Herod is finally ready to act. The campaign of whispers is about to reach its violent and irreversible conclusion. Believing all the lies, haunted by these visions of his own murder, King Herod gives the order. His son, Prince Alexander, is arrested and put in chains. A father has just imprisoned his own child, based on a story that was completely made up. Now, to justify this, Herod's torture machine goes to work on Alexander's friends. Many of them die refusing to talk, but a few break under the pain, and they produce the final, fatal confession that Alexander and Aristobulus were planning to kill their father on a hunting trip and then flee to Rome. Josephus says it was of an incredible nature, but it was exactly what the king needed to hear. And so we're left with this question. The court of Herod is just this chilling case study in how ambition and paranoia can poison a mind and sever the most sacred bonds of family. Because when a king becomes convinced that his own sons are his deadliest enemies, the very foundation of his world and his kingdom crumbles into dust.